Hey everyone, thanks for being here. I'm Calvin Carter. I'm the director of Up North Advocacy, or UNA. We're a community organizing organization based in the Upper Peninsula in northern Lower Michigan. A big part of our work is helping communities build the relationships, the knowledge, the infrastructure, the capacity they need to take on big issues that affect their future. And over the last couple of years, data centers and cryptocurrency have increasingly become one of those issues. My own community here in Sault Ste. Marie is currently home to one of these sites. It's a small crypto mine that operates just across the road from a school that my daughter has attended for years. The facility began majorly disrupting the learning environment there immediately. So we began to work in support of that school, bringing our community together at like municipal meetings. We held educational events, and we began learning how other people in similar situations have handled themselves. And we're going to talk a little bit more on that later, but just so you know, that work is what brought us together to form Northern Michigan for Responsible Development. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that organization, it's a coalition of organizations like Up North and community leaders working together to help communities understand, organize around, and respond to cryptocurrency and data center operation development. It was started primarily through the work of Up North Advocacy and Michigan United, but it has gladly grown into a much broader network of people and organizations working together on issues across northern Michigan. The idea behind NMARD is pretty simple. It's that communities shouldn't have to figure all this stuff out alone, and we're all stronger together. So we've got people here all over the north who have been digging into these projects, attending local meetings, doing research, organizing their neighbors, talking to their elected officials, and learning what works and what doesn't. Today is an opportunity to share those learning experiences. So we're going to hear from people working in different regions of Michigan and even Wisconsin, I guess, about what they've encountered in their communities, what they've learned, and what they wish they'd known earlier, and what they think other communities should be thinking about now. This isn't intended to be a big formal presentation about the theoretical implications of these technologies. It's a lessons learned conversation based on real world lived experiences by people just like you and me. The goal is if there's a community somewhere around that is starting to hear about a proposed project, either now, 6 months from now, a year from now, they have some tools in their toolbox to learn how to help them with that. So I want to take just a couple minutes to recognize some of the people and organizations who help make this work possible. Of course, we have everyone at Up North Advocacy and all of our volunteers. We have our early partner, Michigan United, and they're good folks, and their legendary organizer, Audrey Gerard, over there in the Houghton area. We have the Groundwork Center for Resilient Communities with us, as well as the Michigan Climate Action Network and the Michigan chapter of the Sierra Club. We also have Progress Michigan, Keweenaw Against the Oligarchy, Keweenaw Socialists, the League of Women Voters of the Eastern Upper Peninsula, the Keweenaw Mutual Aid Collective, Northern Michigan Environmental Aid Council, and Keweenaw Youth for Climate Action. Each of those groups are in turn supported by hundreds and thousands of folks who care for and work hard to keep their communities the sorts of places that we're all proud to call home. And many of them are with us today in either one of our regional event spaces or online. For those of you here in person, you may see tables around you. Ours, Sault Ste. Marie, is outside here. That's got some information about our partners and sponsors, as well as a QR code you can scan to ask questions. Please take some time to check those out. And for everyone, no matter where you are, we'll have a follow-up email with a list of all of our partners. That way you can get in touch with them if you want to. Before we get started here in earnest, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to say hi. Tonight we're coming together across a vast geographical span, basically the entire 1st Congressional District of Michigan. We have folks gathered together in person here in the Sioux, but also in Marquette, Houghton Hancock area, Traverse City, and lots of people online. So we're going to start here in the Eastern Upper Peninsula. You got me and Dave holding down everything here with you all, but let's hear from the room. Give it up, Sault Ste. Marie, let people know that you're here. All right, and now looking to hear from Traverse City. Y'all with us?
Someone's frantically trying to unmute is what's happening.
Hello. Hi, we're here in Traverse City, Northern Michigan Environmental Action Council. We got one good woo. Let's do it. Can we get another good woo? Thank you.
Thank you, Traverse City. And Western UP, what's good?
Yay!
Okay, I just want to introduce our super volunteer, Alessia Correll, and our other super volunteer, Audrey Gerard, who are here holding it down. And my name's Alessia, but yes. Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Finally, I'm going to pass things over to the Central Upper Peninsula for them to take over. All right, thanks.
Care so much. And the Q&A, we're only going to do over your phone, please, because we're taking questions from literally all 4 locations.
I'll just use my teacher voice.
Okay.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Lucy Miller. I'm a professor in the College of Business at Northern Michigan University. I research data centers, and I think a lot about data centers from the vantage point of digital literacy. So I'm going to start there. All right. So I work off of a framework from a really famous digital rhetorician, Stuart Selber. He argues that when it comes to digital technologies, our literacies are multiple. Too often we start right at critical literacy, which is thinking about how to use a digital tool for a particular function, like I need to use AI to ask a question or do something like that. But literacy is actually much more nuanced than that. First, we have fundamental literacy, which is understanding what's needed to create a tool. So thinking about the resources, the infrastructure, and then also rhetorical literacy, which starts to think about those socioeconomic and cultural impacts that a technology can have in a larger society. So my talk today is going to focus not so much on critical use of AI, but more on like how it's made and what kind of impact it has. As any teacher would, I'm going to give you a little outline of my talk. I'm going to focus on what data centers are, because they're not all created equal. I'm going to talk a little bit about what are hyperscale AI data centers, and then also how they're different from other traditional data centers. I'm going to talk a little bit about environmental concerns. I'm going to touch a little bit on water, energy, and pollution. And then I'm going to end with talking a little bit about why these data centers are so attracted to our area specifically, thinking about different state incentives that attract them. All right. So to begin, not all data centers are created equal. There's actually 5 major camps that data centers fall under. The first is modular, which are portable. They're really small. They tend to be mainly for the computer servers and the equipment. Their primary purpose is to reduce that time and cost that construction requires for data center development. Their energy demands are actually quite small. From there, we have modular data centers. These are also called edge data centers. These tend to be small as well, but they're a little bit bigger than modular. They're more used for where the data is being generated and processed. So think here about big data analytics. Usually they're at the base of cell towers connected to 5G connectivity, and they're a little bit stronger in their energy demands, but still not too extensive. From there, we have enterprise data centers. These are usually on-site data centers to multinational corporations like Coca-Cola or Walmart, and they're used primarily for 2 different functions. The first is for storing of their own information, like customer information or sensitive financial records. And then from there, they're used for a secondary backup if there's some type of power outage or natural disaster, so that they have the redundancy of their information at their fingertips. From there, we get into co-location data centers. These are a bit bigger. They have more of an energy demand, and they are a third-party off-premise major facility that usually brings in 20 or more corporations simultaneously to utilize those resources that enterprise data centers have available at their fingertips. So in other words, corporations might use them who don't have the IT resources or might need some of those infrastructure requirements that they don't have themselves. From there, that takes us to hyperscale data centers. You'll see the energy demand gets much more expansive at the hyperscale level. Hyperscale data centers are cloud-based data centers. They're massive, they're centralized, and they're operated by a single company. They also house thousands of servers of racks of tens of thousands of servers, upwards of 1 million square feet. They cost upwards of $1 billion to construct. And typically their energy demands are extensive, going into 100 megawatts and gigawatts. So thinking about major differences between traditional data centers, which fall within those first 4 camps, and then hyperscale AI. The differences here I have highlighted in red. So we have the primary goal varying extensively. Traditional data centers tend to be more about data storage, all right, and web hosting, whereas AI hyperscale tends to be more about training and inference of AI models for the large language learning. From there, hardware differences are CPUs versus GPUs. We also have power intensity differences. Traditional data centers aren't as extensive in their power demands, whereas hyperscale, again, get into those gigawatts. We also have a vast difference in the types of cooling systems that are utilized for hyperscale versus traditional. Traditional is air-cooled and hyperscale is liquid-cooled, which will play more into effect later on when we talk about the Great Lakes. Also, hyperscale data centers cost more upfront and over time. So their construction is really expensive, and then in order to maintain them, their energy demands also bring the cost up quite a bit more than traditional data centers. When we think about how data center energy is mitigated, 50% is devoted to its cooling system. This plays significantly into the water if hyperscale AI data centers are cooled by water. So the Great Lakes states are cooler by nature. We know that because we've experienced the most recent winter we had, and we have access to water. Now, we were given this one-time precious gifts by the glacial meltings, which accounts for 99% of the Great Lakes. 1% of our annual replenish rate comes from that groundwater, the rainwater, snow. What's important to note is that 20% of the world's surface freshwater comes from the Great Lakes, and anywhere between 40 to 75% of Great Lakes residents depend on that groundwater for drinking water. Every Great Lakes state currently is experiencing some type of groundwater shortage. So this is something that's already a demand for our area. AI data centers use more than 365 million gallons of water a year. Data centers require water to cool their servers and to generate power. So this is presenting quite a conundrum for our area just based on our groundwater shortage. In 2025, AI data centers used as much water as the total amount of the bottled water people drink globally. The Alliance for Great Lakes estimates that 165 billion gallons of water is going to be needed for hyperscale AI data centers over the next 5 years alone. Data center demand is expected to triple by 2030, and hyperscale data centers are expected to double over the next 4 years. Michigan currently has about 34 hyperscale data centers. In Great Lakes states, when a large water user obtains its water through a municipal system, the system is required to track the water use, not the water user. This is really important because less than 1/3 of data centers are estimated to be tracking their own water use. They tag onto these municipal systems, which becomes nearly impossible to parse out who's using how much water. Excuse me. More than 97% of data centers rely on municipal water supplies rather than private wells for this reason. Data centers are primarily cooled through two different mechanisms: evaporative cooling, which is more water intensive and a little bit less energy dependent, and closed loop cooling, which is less water dependent, but more energy intensive. So it's kind of two coin sides that are both equally problematic. Closed loop systems also have recent studies coming out that shows that there's PFAS contaminants in their water. So even though that may be a more sustainable method, it's not actually something that's safer. And so far as electricity, in 2023 to 2024, US data centers used 4 to 5% of all of the total US electricity. This is actually projected to reach 12% by 2030. AI data centers require sites near electric transmission lines with sufficient capacity to provide power to the facility and high capacity, low latency fiber optic cables to connect to the internet. Five Lake Energy argues that a single gigawatt data center could increase residential rates from 5 to 10% if protections aren't added. So moving beyond water and energy demands, we also know that there's a lot of pollution attributed to data centers. To name a few, for noise pollution, we have heavy equipment that's used during construction. Those that live near data centers will tell you just how loud and intrusive they can be. Diesel generators, heating and ventilation HVAC systems also produce an extensive amount of noise. And routinely, hyperscale AI data centers generate over 90 decibels of noise pollution. Anything over 85 is considered harmful to our hearing. For light pollution, Hyperscale facilities require all-night lighting, which we know disrupts our circadian rhythm, and studies are now showing that migration patterns and habitat development is impacted by this as well for species like birds, butterflies, and bees. And so far as air pollution, gas-powered data centers contain harmful pollutants like nitrogen oxide, methane, and fine particulate matter. In 2025, a study found that these pollutants increase the rate of respiratory illnesses and diseases and cardiovascular conditions and elevate cancer risks among nearby communities. 2025 models indicate that US data centers in 2030 could cause approximately 600,000 asthma symptom cases and 1,300 premature deaths, exceeding 1/3 of asthma deaths in the US each year, resulting in a public health burden of more than $20 billion. To give you a sense, it's very hard to track how many data centers are actually in play, being developed, what stage they're at. So as of this March, we currently had 368 active data centers in Great Lakes states, and that number is projected to rise with those that are under construction or recently being announced. However, there are a lot of organizations that are doing good to track this data center development in the state of Michigan and beyond, also highlighting the different 8 stages of progress that communities are at. One such organization that I'd like to highlight is the Economic Development Responsibility Alliance of Michigan. You can go to their website and see what data centers are being proposed, what stage they're at. There's actually one for Marquette. With all of the recent rumors surrounding the KI Sawyer base, they have a fully developed profile and they are actively tracking that data center to see how far along it's moving, if there's been any progress. So that's a resource I would really recommend to anyone interested. And they have them highlighted: one but diligent, winning, and fighting. The last thing I'd like to highlight are tax incentives. In November of 2024, Michigan lawmakers approved a bill that exempted major data centers from sales and use tax until at least 2050. In January of 2025, Governor Whitmer signed this into law. Every Great Lakes state offers sales and use tax exemptions for data centers. However, this year, some states have started to roll back those incentives, with New York State being the first to offer a statewide moratorium for the next year. So some progress is being made. Again, it's up to you to show up to meetings, to get involved, and to let your communities know whether this is something you want to invest in or not. Great Lakes states are being targeted due to our climate, access to water, and tax incentives. Too often are decisions made behind NDAs, where it is often too late to ask questions, demand transparency, and hold big tech accountable to our communities. The first step in taking a stand is understanding how these data centers are made, the resources that they require, and the impact that they pose on our health and natural environment. Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce Charlie Behrens. Charlie is a comedian, New York Times bestselling author, Emmy-winning journalist, and musician, known for creating Midwest-focused sketch videos like his popular series, The Manitowoc Minute, and the hilarious podcast Bellied Up and Cripescast. He has amassed over 10 million followers and 3 billion views across his social channels thanks to his related comedic sensibility grounded in Midwest culture. Charlie has been a huge advocate for residents in the state of Wisconsin and Midwest in his push for transparency from big tech on data center development. Let's give him a warm UP welcome.
Give Lucy a big round. Sorry, I screwed the pooch. No, it's my bad. You'd think I do this professionally. Maybe I wouldn't bring a microphone to another microphone party, knowing the dynamics of that. But nope, that's not what you're getting here. Shoot. Shout out to our bartenders over there. Give those guys a big round of applause. Make sure you tip them, okay? Shout out to this guy right here who got me a beer before I even started the show. Thank you. What's your name? Joe, where are you from? Right here. Okay. Real good. Marquette. Okay. Okay, good. Nice. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. Where'd you go to high school? Westwood High School? Okay. One fan. Good. Sounds good. What was your mascot at Westwood High School, Joe? The Patriots? That's unfortunate. Bummer, dude. Okay, so you're a Patriot. Do you have a car in high school, Joe? Yeah, what kind of car?
Yeah.
Volkswagen Golf. Okay, stick shift, 5 on the floor. Yeah, all right. What color was that Golf? Black. Nice. Say your favorite color, Joe? Yeah, he's a black color guy. There you go. All right, real good. That's awesome. Now, are you a Lions fan, Joe? No. All right, settle down. Settle down. What's your favorite professional sports team, Joe? Oh, he's a Packers fan, ladies and gentlemen. Packers fan. I like that. I like that. Joe, are you a dog guy or a cat guy? You got a dog? What kind of dog? Springer Doodle. Weird. Real weird. What's his name? Franklin. Even weirder, Joe. This is getting weirder. Did you have a dog growing up? Yeah. What was that dog's name? Spooner? Schooner. Okay, makes sense with the Great Lakes. Sure. Okay, we'll take that. Last question. What's your mom's maiden name? Really, guys? Really? He was this close to answering me, okay? I was one question away from having all Joe's security questions. I was going to have a hell of a time at fleetfarm.com tonight, but it's fine. You screwed the pooch for me. I want to let you know that, Michigan. Okay. What's that? Franklin screwed the pooch? Oh, Franklin was the pooch. Oh, let's not get into that. Who was the first guy to say screwed the pooch? You ever think about that? It's the first guy to walk into a room and say, I screwed the pooch. You know, yeah, it was a Midwesterner. His mom was there having a dinner party, like, kids these days, they say the darndest things. No, when Joe says he screwed the pooch, he just means that he made a mistake, you know? You know, what the hell happened to Franklin, Joe? Oh man, where are my Packers fans in this audience? Where are you guys? That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. Where are my Lions fans at? I'm fine with it. You're not a threat. All right. How about Bears fans? Where are you guys? Shut up. That's enough. Sit down. Bears fan, are you excited you're going to Indiana?
Yes.
Yes, you are? Yeah, I'm excited too, because I spent a bunch of money on the Indiana Bears sock shirts. And I'm serious. I even trademarked IBS. I'm gonna make a killing. It's a new beginning? Oh, okay. You guys never heard that before. Oh man, how about Vikings fans? Do we have Vikings fans in here? They're common enemy. That's good. Oh, they're bartenders, a Vikings fan? No way. That's all right. I was actually in Minneapolis recently. I was doing a show at the Mall of America. Yeah, because I don't know if you guys know this, but my career is really taken off. Yeah. You have not made it in comedy till you're doing jokes next to a rainforest cafe. Nothing like bombing a joke and hearing a cheetah screech. But anyway, the woman working there was telling me all these useless facts about the Mall of America. And one of them is that the Mall of America is so big, it can fit not one, not two, but 3 Viking stadiums inside. Isn't that crazy? I didn't know it was that big. 3 Viking stadiums. They don't have that many fans. They don't have that many fans, and they can't even fit 1 Viking Super Bowl trophy in there. It's crazy. That was a burn. That was a little burn. And I know that laughter was subdued because you also know what other Super Bowl trophy. Anyways, you guys are good. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you so much. It's awesome. What else is going on? Oh, I can't see some of you right now because I don't have my glasses on. I was just trying to go get a new pair of glasses, and I went to the Lens Crafters, and the person working there was like, "You should try the new Meta AI glasses with the cameras on them." And I was like, "The Meta AI glasses with the cameras on them? Oh, no. No, I don't want that at all." Okay. I mean, I know I look like a guy that could have been in a Netflix show about a murderer from Wisconsin, but I'm actually not a pervert, you know? Like, that's so insulting to be asked if I want the Meta AI glasses with the cameras on them. That's like going to buy a new car. Thank you. You printed out a picture of me right there? There's one. Oh, it's the same picture. Good. I'm glad it's not a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer. That would have been good. Yeah, but I was insulted, though. I was insulted, like being asked if I wanted those Meta AI glasses. That's like going to buy a new car, and the car dealer's like, "Hey, have you tried the windowless books on the inside?" What are we doing here? First time I saw those Meta AI glasses in the wild, I was in the gym, the locker room. And someone was walking around the locker room with the Meta AI glasses on. I was like, "You can't do that here. You can't do that in a YMCA men's locker room." Do you guys know what happens in the locker room of the YMCA? The men's locker room of the YMCA, do you know what happens there? It's a bunch of boomers with their peckers out. I'm serious. Boomers love going peckers out in the YMCA locker room. No, I mean, not the Gen Z fellas, not the millennial fellas. No, they'll put a towel on. They'll put their undies on under the towel. They're shy guys. They are shy guys, but not the boomers. They don't care at all. They are loud, they are proud, and God bless them. But seriously, they are not, they are sitting there having a business meeting in the buff. They're just talking face to face, belly to belly, pecker to peck. And just drinking their coffee, sharing a box of donuts. You can't be wearing those Meta AI glasses there. That brings up the question, how much of our beautiful, pristine forests and farmlands are being destroyed for a Meta AI data center that is just filled to the brim with boomer peckers? Right? Just hanging out. You know, like, "Hey there, Frank, how you doing this morning? Still getting up every morning or no?" "Well, Peter, you know, so, oh, here's Willie. Willie, is it cold in that shower?" "Shut up, Dick." "I'm not Dick, I'm Frank." And that's when I realized how many men's names were actual innuendos for peckers. So, weird joke. I need a therapist. I actually have a therapist. I do. Thank you. One clap. Therapist's name is Larry, and he is a bartender, actually. Yeah, I'm fine with that, okay? I see some judgment out there, but my bartender is my therapist, okay? And I don't deserve the judgment, by the way, because there are some people out there using ChatGPT as a therapist. And that's a terrible idea. That's an awful idea. ChatGPT as a therapist? Are you kidding me? ChatGPT takes all your data, stores it forever, and in 5 years, you're going to get blackmailed by a Roomba, okay? Larry won't remember a damn thing you told him this time tomorrow because he drinks the entire shift. See the difference here? Every single ChatGPT inquiry uses something like a bottle of water. Not Larry. Larry does not drink water. No, he swore it off. Just Diet Cokes. Fridge cigarettes, he calls it. That guy's on a Diet Coke right now. And some people, though, they push back. They say, no, ChatGPT understands me. No, ChatGPT doesn't understand you. ChatGPT just tells you what you want to hear, so you keep feeding it more data so it can serve you ads for things you can't afford to buy because a robot just took your job, okay? Saying my ChatGPT understands me is like saying I just met the love of my life at Texas Jay's. No, you didn't. That's a strip club, by the way. Clearly forgot to look up the local strip club, or that would have hit harder. One at a time. What is it? Big Bonds. Big Bonds is your strip club? Now, do they wear pasties or pasties? That's my question. Oh, God. Big Bonds. You guys need some help up here. All right. Is the owner of Big Bonds in the house tonight? She's dead. God rest her soul. Yeah. Oh, was Bond it's BYOB? Shut up. You can drink in the parking lot? You can tailgate your strip clubs? I gotta move to the UP. Oh my God. That is insane. So what's that? You play softball for Big Bonds? Is that your jersey? What? Where am I? Where am I? Oh my gosh. We are in God's country. Yeah, we are in God's country. No, but let's get serious, guys. Let's get serious, okay? Because they have found that in 95% of war games, AI models have chosen nuclear war. Okay, this thing could kill us. It could kill us. Okay, but Larry would never hurt you. No, because Larry can't legally own a firearm. Not since the Christmas of '86. But anyways, it is nice to be here in the UP. It is nice. The Toledo War, huh? Yeah. Worked out for you guys. Yeah, Ohio and Michigan got into a war, and Michigan got the UP, and Ohio got screwed. Yeah, but I did look it up, and I found that the Toledo War was a military confrontation involving a single shot being fired into the air, incurring no casualties. And I hate to say it, UP, that's not a war. Single shot being fired in the air, incurring no casualties? Not a war at all. That is duck hunting, okay? Get it right. But anyways, it is nice to be here. Let's see here. I even wrote a speech. Oh, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I also want to give a big shout out to Holton and Traverse City and Sault Ste. Marie and all the folks watching online. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for coming out. We wish you could be here drinking this delicious beer. That was, I just said that so I could drink some beer. I'm going to be honest with you. But no, it's great. And look, we are here tonight because we don't want big tech deciding the future of the UP. We want the Upers deciding the future of the UP. Yes. Yes. And we are here tonight because the UP should really be part of Wisconsin. Okay, that divided the room. That divided the room. I figured I'd give it a shot, you know? I mean, you guys I had to give it a shot. I had to do it. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. You know, it was worth a shot. But if you look around here tonight, though, seriously, if you look around here tonight, this is what big tech is scared of the most, because this is the one thing they can't buy. People coming together, different walks of life, different political backgrounds. You got Democrats here, you got Republicans here, you got hunters, you got farmers, you got bird watchers, you got swingers, you got it all. Yeah, don't give me that look. I know there are swingers in this audience tonight. Okay, I've seen your pontoons. Now, I'm not saying all pontoon owners are swingers, but all swingers do own a pontoon. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyways, it's great to be here tonight. It really is. And as you heard, we are here talking about hyperscale AI data centers, and big tech is going to love to tell you that, if you use a phone, if you use online banking, if you use photos, if you use social media, you're using the data center, so you're a hypocrite to not want it in your backyard. But as you heard from Lucy's speech, there are many different kinds of data centers. There's these hyperscale AI data centers and then all the traditional data centers, and they're very different. It's kind of like comparing a dog to a wolf, okay? Like, yeah, they both kind of look like a dog, but I'm not going to try to take a wolf to get neutered. That's not going to end well. They have much different, and one thing that's huge is the sound, and we love our wildlife here in Wisconsin, the UP, and beautiful loons, right? Do we have sound on that or no? Can we hear those beautiful loon calls? What are you doing after this show? Holy. Anyways, now listen, there are, in all seriousness, there are pros and cons when it comes to these data centers, okay? And you got to look at the pros and the cons. You can't just look at the bad stuff. You got to look at the good stuff too. Okay, so we'll start with the cons. Okay, and if we go through, can you be my clicker? Oh, it works. Okay, so yes, there are bad things that happen with AI. Like you have AI-linked job losses surge among older white-collar workers. AI job losses, trade unions. They're alarmed by robotics designed to replace blue-collar jobs, okay? Yeah, and yes, are there devastating effects from AI data center noise on the human body and mind? That is true, okay? And Sam Altman does say, I do guess that a lot of the world gets covered in data centers over time. That's not what we want to hear. And yeah, the U.S. government ramps up mass surveillance with the help of AI tech. That's those flock cameras, real good. And yes, a predator in your home, mothers say chatbots encourage their sons to kill themselves, so there are some dangers there. And yeah, leading AI models show up to 96% blackmail rate when their goals of existence are threatened. Yes. And as I said before, in 95% of war games, AI models go nuclear. But on the plus side, guys, in the other 5% of instances, they choose Settlers of Catan. So, and another plus side, you got to look at the other plus side too, is that these AI models can make the impossible look real. Like the video generation makes something you thought was never could happen real. The other day, I saw this AI generated video of the Lions winning the Super Bowl. It was so... Okay, sorry about that. Sorry. I just had to give that a go. You guys are going to get there. Hey, you'll get there before the Vikings do, okay? Go Pack Go. I think it's the wrong time for that chant based off of the reaction. You said no Pack No? Get the hell. Sir, we're going to fight right now. Where's my loon lady? Back me up on this. Good Lord. All right. Now, look, most of us didn't ask for AI. That's the point. Most of us didn't ask for any of this. Can it do some amazing things? Maybe. Okay, maybe it can. But without guardrails, it can clearly do some terrible things too. It's like fire, it's a tool. But before big tech builds a fire in our house, I think we should at least demand that they build a fireplace first, right? And maybe a smoke alarm too, with the D batteries, because they're such a pain in the ass to go out and get, okay? Now, but this is especially true when it comes to the economy, okay? Because the only thing that is certain with AI right now is uncertainty. If you scroll through the headlines, we are in an AI bubble, okay? When it will pop, what will happen when it pops, who knows? But that's out there. And we are taking all the risk and they are taking the reward. When it pops, I think the question is, what happens to the places that we destroy? What happens to them? Places that we used to farm, places that we used to hike, the places we used to birdwatch, the places we used to hunt, the places we used to go to connect to a being higher than us. And no, I'm not talking about the guys disc golfing, okay? She just got that. I knew this would hit in Michigan. I'm talking about, though, the land that made us who we are. Because as good as AI ever could be, it will never replace the land we've destroyed to bring it out. So instead of gambling the future of the UP on big tech's hype, I think what makes the most sense is to take a pause, put in a moratorium, make sure this is actually what we need to do before we do it, because big tech isn't thinking about that. They're just thinking we need the race to beat other AI firm, because if AI firm doesn't win, China will win. But the only way this gets a return on investment is if they create some kind of a god. That's the only way they can get the money back that they've dumped into this. And I'm not sure which one's worse, racing to build something you can't control, or just racing to build something that's a bust, and then we all have to pay for the consequences. Any way you cut this, it does not make sense. So the whole thing here is we got to take back control. And I think I figured out a way that we can take back control. And that is tap beer, okay? Oh, I don't know what happened to my tea there. Hang on. Turn off volume. Yeah, there you go. All right, cool. Tap beer. That's what we need. It's an acronym, you guys. It's an acronym. It stands for transparency, okay? Transparency. No more NDAs, all right? If you got something you don't want to say in front of the rest of us, save it for confession, which Father Tom holds every Tuesday night at your local bar, okay? I know you got a Father Tom. I know you got a bar that can handle it, all right? It stands for accountability. It stands for transparency, accountability, protections, and beer. Okay. This is what we need. This is what we need. Yeah. I mean, for accountability, for starters, like our states and the federal government, they have failed us. In Wisconsin, our state government has failed us. Here in Michigan, good God, your state government has failed you. Holy smokes. And the best our federal government got was a pledge from the big tech companies to not raise our power bills and our utility bills in the build out. A pledge. That's the best they got, the most powerful companies in the world to agree to a pledge. Let me ask you guys, show of hands, how many of you guys made a pledge in DARE class? Okay, keep those hands up. How many of you been to the dispensary in the past week? That's what I thought, okay? No. I don't, what'd you say? A bunch of other AI executives, lieutenant colonels. They made Palantir lieutenant colonels? Well, that's not good. That's exactly what we're talking about. That's not accountability at all. No. I mean, and that's true, but like you see like all the financial incentives and you see how hard it is to hold them accountable, because when these companies are worth more than some countries, how can you ever make a penalty that they care about? The only way you can do that is you actually hit them where it counts, and that's the money. We need financial penalties that actually make big tech think twice, as opposed to breaking the law and then just paying the fine because it's cheaper than doing the right thing to begin with. And we need protections, okay? We need laws, because right now there are no laws. There is more regulation on a bratwurst than the entire artificial intelligence industry. It is true. Yeah, and don't even get me started on the cheese curds. It's ridiculous. No, we need protections. And that's why this has become the most bipartisan issue since beer, because everyone can see right through it, you know? But we need more regulation. We need regulation on a whole host of things. We need to demand to know what chemicals these companies are putting in the water, exactly how many gallons they're using. We need to know if they're using PFAS. We need to demand that we're not going to foot the bill for these utility build-outs. We need to demand that there's no surveillance for U.S. citizens. Yeah. Yeah, why are we putting up these flock cameras? You guys got 6 of them alone in Marquette right now. The only way these AI flock cameras should be legal is if they're only used during deer season and I'm the only one with the password. I said it here first. We need to be able to opt out of giving our data. Right now, we're all giving our data for free, and for what? So they can control us. So, and that brings us to the last thing here, and that's trust. If we step back and we look at the bigger picture, if a company is going to come in and ask us to give our land and our water and raise our power bills, if they are going to come in and ask us to trade the soul of our community, we at least have to be able to trust these companies. But right now, we can't. Right now, these are the same companies. Just look at the lobbying dollars going in that big tech is putting in to pushing against child protections on social media. How can we possibly trust the most powerful companies in the world if we can't even trust them to protect our kids over profits? My point here is, it is a very narrow path to developing a more intelligent technology than all of humans. Is it possible they can even do that? I don't know. But if they can, it's a very narrow path. And AI companies need our data centers. But maybe before we decide to give our land and our water and our power, and before we decide to give the soul of our communities, we have to demand that these AI companies first show us that we can trust them.
Never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen. Okay, that sounds good. No, but look. Did you just say Flamingo Revolution? That goes well with the pontoons, okay? But I do think, in all seriousness, I think we can build a better future, okay? I think we can build a future where we actually have a say in what happens in our communities. A future where security doesn't mean mass surveillance. A future where if the whole world truly is covered in these data centers, the most precious places on the planet will be the ones that protected the gifts God gave us and not the profits of billionaires. And if they truly are trying to build what they call a warehouse of geniuses, look around, guys. We have that right here. Okay, every single one of you has genius inside of you. Whether it's you have a gift, maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you're a social media person, maybe you're good with boots on the ground, maybe you're good with organizing, maybe you have money to donate. We want your genius to be part of this movement. Okay, so get connected after the show. Whatever you have, we will take it. It's going to take all of us to unite, to just fight for what we deserve, and that's a seat at the table in the future. Because what good is the future without our freedom? Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Appreciate you doing.
Well, thank you, Charlie. That was something else. And that was also awesome and very informative. We really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out tonight, Charlie, and all the other speakers. My name is Lexi. I'm the Western Upper Peninsula organizer for Up North Advocacy. And I am here to introduce Emma Goodman, our next speaker, who is a Michigan Tech student. I'm with Western Upper Peninsula Hub of NWARD member, and she is also from the city of Saline, where there is a massive hyperscale data center being developed. So give it up for Emma.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Emma Goodman. I'm from the city of Saline, which is just down the road from Saline Township, where the Open AI and Oracle data center is being built. But I'm just here to give some information on background information on Saline and the data center that's being built there as a lesson for what we can do to make sure this doesn't happen in northern Michigan. So just some background information on the data center. It's called the Barn because it's being built on some farmland in Saline Township. It is a 1.4 gigawatt data center. It's 250 acres. And just to put it into context, 1.4 gigawatts is the same amount of energy that 1.1 million homes use. And just for some more context, Saline Township has a population of just over 2,000 people. And the city of Saline, right next to it, has a population of about 9,000 people. So this data center is going to be using much more energy than what has ever been used in the area. It is being built by Related Digital, which is a Texas-based developer for OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, and Oracle, another AI company. I have a timeline of, what happened, what led to the data center. In the summer of 2025, Related Digital submitted a conditional rezoning request to Saline Township. Conditional rezoning is when land is rezoned to a specific use, in this case, a data center, with enforceable conditions. In this case,
I can't see your
restrictions
slides.
on operations from the township.
Okay.
And the Saline Township Planning Commission and Saline Township Board both denied this application. So this data center was not wanted from the start. It wasn't wanted by the community. It wasn't wanted by our elected officials. But 2 days after they denied this application, the developers Related Digital sued the township for exclusionary zoning, claiming that the township unlawfully blocked a legitimate land use, the data center. This township was recommended to just settle, because what is a small farm community going to do against two of the biggest tech companies in the world?
Yeah.
So they approved the application, and this happened because Saline Township wasn't prepared for a data center proposal. They didn't have the legal framework in place to prevent one. So in January of this past year, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy approved permits for the construction on wetlands and the installation of generators on site. At that point, the data center had already started construction. And this past, I believe, either June or July, there was a groundbreaking ceremony that happened at the data center with Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. And Gretchen Whitmer was also there. Should be Sam Altman stand. With the approval of this application, the township was able to put in some enforceable community benefit agreements. So these are just requirements for the data center. So this included a closed loop cooling system, which we heard a little bit about before. It also included donations to community services like our fire department. Next slide, please. That's okay. But yeah, this is the timeline of events. You can see it all happened really fast, and none of it was with our community support. And we can move on to the next slide also. Okay. But some other community benefit agreements that were put into place were like donations to the fire department and our rec center. There we go. 8 million in taxes to the Michigan schools, 1.6 million in taxes to Saline Township, 750 acres of preserved land, including wetlands, and noise restrictions to 55 decibels at the property line. They also promised union construction jobs and permanent on-site jobs. I believe about 450 on-site jobs after construction was finished. Next slide, please. So all of these community benefit agreements sound amazing, but there's obviously going to be impacts on the community. First of all, this data center was not wanted. There was widespread opposition from everyone in Saline, our elected officials, our community members, against it. The Barn Data Center has a website where they have quotes from the community in support of the data center, and they were only able to find 4 people to give them quotes of support. One of those people is actually a resident of Ann Arbor, and another one of those people is the landowner who sold their land to Related Digital. So obviously they were not able to find a lot of support. Another concern is disturbance from construction. So the scale of this data center is absolutely massive. The 250 acres is about the equivalent of 190 football fields. And last time I drove by it in April, it was just insane. Just there's an entire 250 acres of earth just upended, just a pit in the ground.
Wow.
And that's going to exacerbate issues like road salt, like erosion on the Saline River, which they're building right up on. There's going to be easier runoff of road salts and fertilizers and chemicals into the Saline River. There's also the potential for groundwater contamination after the data center has been built. This has been seen across the country. Data centers come into communities and their groundwater turns brown. They lose their water pressure. So this is another possibility once this data center is operating. There's also the issue of rising energy prices. DTE just had a rate increase approved of $242 million a year back in February. Who's to say that DTE won't ask for another rate hike once this data center becomes operational? And who's to say that Consumers Energy or UPCO won't ask for a rate hike if a data center comes to Northern Michigan? There's also the data center has also been approved for tax exemptions. They were approved for an industrial facilities exemption certificate, which gives them a 50% property tax exemption for 12 years. They're just not paying their fair share. They're taking up all of this land, using all of these resources, and they're not paying their fair share in taxes. There's also the potential for negative health impacts with the use of the on-site generators that releases emissions that could exacerbate health issues like asthma. And there's also the issue of the contamination of the Saline River. The data center is currently seeking a permit to discharge wastewater into the Saline River, directly into the Saline River. This permit would authorize a quote, increased floating of pollutants to the Saline River, which will decrease water quality standards. This data center is upstream of Mill Pond Park, which is a beloved community area. I grew up there. I went there every summer. I played in the river almost every week. Every summer I grew up there. And people from not only the city, but the county take their kids there, take their dogs there to play in the river. And this data center wants to discharge wastewater upstream of this park. Next slide, please. So how can we prevent this from happening again? How can we keep our children and our communities, our water, and our land safe in Northern Michigan? Next slide, please. I think the most important thing for this, to prevent this, is preventative policies. So being prepared in the face of a potential data center proposal, that's the most important thing. This includes creating zoning in unzoned land. In Fulton County, there's a lot of unzoned areas. So creating zoning would make clear purposes and guidelines for land use in these areas. There's also moratoriums, which are a temporary prohibition on an activity, land use. In this case, it would be data center development. And this just gives municipalities time to plan and put in the legal framework for if a data center comes here. Yeah.
I thought there was a moratorium that Benjamin Whitner supposedly said she was adhering to with regard to data centers. I see a number of them on the map in Michigan.
Yeah, the question was Whitmer was supposedly in support of the data center moratorium statewide, but that's not.
Well, I know wasn't there a moratorium in other year?
No, there was one proposed in there's a statewide data center moratorium proposed for in the House of Reps, or our Michigan State House of Reps, but it has not gone through. Another preventative policy is updating master plans. This includes creating this is a policy guide developed by a municipality's planning commission that outlines their development goals and their priorities. So once a master plan is in place, the planning commission then must ensure that new developments fit the goal of their master plans. This also includes a zoning map and ordinance, which lays out specific allowed uses in the different land parcels. So this is a really nice tool to write it in a way where it discourages or prevents data centers. And last is zoning ordinances, which are just regulations of land use. You can put decibel limits, you can put generator use limits. This is also a really helpful tool. And all of these policies give municipalities a much stronger standing in the face of data center proposals. Next slide, please. but what can you do just as a local citizen? The most important thing is to join local action groups. We need local voices to urge our local elected officials to make data center prevention a priority. It also takes a lot of work to put these preventative policies in place. We need as many people's skills, as many people's experiences as possible. So I really urge you to join the Northern Michigan Alliance for Responsible Development. We have all the emails, all the relevant emails up on the screen. At NMARD, we are working with local leaders to put these preventative policies in place, but we need as many voices as we can to make ourselves a legitimate voice in the community and make sure our local leaders take us seriously. And I joined the Northern Michigan Alliance for Responsible Development because I didn't want to see another community steamrolled by these big tech corporations. I didn't want to see another community feel defenseless against the face of a data center. So I joined NMARD because I want our communities in Northern Michigan to be prepared and confident in the face of any proposed data center. And I hope that whether it's for the love of the land, for the love of your neighbors, for the love of our water, that you join the Northern Michigan Alliance for Responsible Development as well. And I also encourage you to attend and give public comment at our local government meetings. So this is just making our local elected officials aware that our communities are concerned about data centers and we want them to keep putting work into them. And I also hope that you leave a public comment on the proposed wastewater discharge permit in the Saline River. This just helps my community in making sure that our river is not polluted even more than it already has been. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Again, I'm Jen Hill, former state legislator, voted against data centers. So we also have with us, I'm hoping the tech guys can make this happen, Houghton City Commissioner Ryan Azari. Can we have him speak first? The questions we're asking these good folks, I'll introduce them more, but have already passed the moratoriums that Emma mentioned as being important tools for protecting our communities. And Brian, is Brian going to be able to speak first?
Yes.
So I will introduce while we're waiting for him to come up. We have a Delta County Commissioner, Kelly Van Genhoven, is here with us tonight. Came up from Escanaba. And Betty Yell, who is the Sands Township Zoning Administrator. Oh, so the other thing. So Brian, can you please let us know why and how did the city of Houghton pass a data center moratorium?
Sure. Can you hear me? Okay, good to go. Hi guys, especially hi to Kelly Van Genhoven. I'm here in Hancock. I'm a city councilor for the city of Houghton, and we passed the moratorium for, I think it was 12 months. We passed it about 2 weeks ago or so, or 3 weeks ago. And it was just, it may be more symbolic than anything because there's not any room really in the city of Hancock, but it's important that we get that out there for other villages and townships and cities and the counties to understand what's happening. Because if we're not proactive with it, it's going to be difficult to legally fight these things without an ordinance in place. So it was really important that this was brought to us. And I think that's an important part of this discussion is that these local units of government need to have these ordinances brought to them. It's not likely they're going to draft them themselves. So I think it's really important to reach out to all the townships and all the local units and in the rural places that have the property and have the water and resources for data centers. And we need to be proactive in that way. So we were just basically setting the tone. We're really proud of what we did. It passed unanimously. And I think Houghton is really united behind this moratorium on data centers. And I think we're just a data point in the Western UP, and it's important that the whole state, unites behind this effort because it's a really big lift for everybody, and we're stronger if we work together. So. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. We're going to move the mic back here to us in Marquette. And I'm going to turn it over to Randy with the Sands Township, who passed his, I believe you passed your moratorium in January?
I started working on the moratorium last year. Oh, God, no. And I got it together and I presented it to the Sands Township Board and they approved it first part of this year, which give me another year. We will not accept any applications for data centers for 12 months. That way it gives me a year to put an ordinance together. I do have the ordinance together, but I keep rereading it and I keep adding and making some changes. So I'm not ready. I'm not going to present it to the board until probably later on. Probably the next couple of months. I'll present it to them and we'll go to the planning commission. And I'm kind of waiting for Michigan Townships Association. I did contact them, MTA, yeah, and they are working on an ordinance, which they told me they were in March, to present to the townships as an ordinance to follow. Well, they still haven't got it, so. But I did contact them yesterday and they said I should have it by the end of next month. I just want to compare, because maybe I missed something. I mean, I'm human just like everybody else. And I want to, our main, Sand Township's main concern, of course, is the consumption of electricity, water. We're on aquifer. Every resident in Sand Township is on a well. That aquifer also supplies Harvey and runs into Lake Superior. Well, so therefore, I've already got in there that a closed loop system is mandatory. And when that comes to when they have to discharge it, they are to discharge it into a transport vehicle and bring it to the Marquette County landfill. We just put an $8 million water plant in there that removes all PFAS and everything from the water before we discharge. And they are to bring it to us. We will treat it and then discharge it as a clean water. It's amazing. I should have brought some with me. I didn't even think about that. We got a copy of the leachate when it comes in during the process, and when it comes out, it's cleaner than the water you get when you buy bottles. We have to add bugs to it to transport it into the fish don't like it. So anyway, but it's important to put an ordinance together. You got to do it. I went with the police power ordinance as opposed to our zoning ordinance, and I did that because I talked to our attorney firm, and that's agreed with me that that's the way to go. It's more clear, and it's only for one particular item, which be A1 data centers. And you need to pick a location in your zoning where it will not affect the surrounding property owners. You got to protect their property values. You got to make sure you do that. And then noise is one of the things that'll help the noise, if you have to put one in there, is we have a 50-foot setback for normal businesses. I'm adding another 150 foot to that. It would have to be trees, pines, whatever you want to plant, which will help deter some of that noise. And also and there's many other things in there that, and by the way, our attorney firm has copies of the moratorium that we gave and the ordinance, and I've given them permission to send it out if they want to. And then, rather than reinvent the wheel, you can take cut and paste. So that's where we're at right now. And we're gonna be very, very strict on that. It's very important. And air pollution, the water pollution, it's if you discharge onto the ground, where does it go? It goes into the groundwater. Eventually, it's going to get into the water that you're drinking. Groundwater is what you grow your plants. If you got farms around, feeds the food you're drinking. You don't want it that. So my suggestion is that you bring it to a local plant and have it go through the water process.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kelly Vangenhoven. I'm a Delta County Commissioner in District 4, which represents the city of Escanaba. In our Delta County Commission, we have 5 county commissioners. 2 represent cities, one the city of Gladstone, the other the city of Escanaba, and the other 3 represent our various townships within Delta County. We first started hearing rumblings about data centers and crypto mining with the Dafter Township issue. And then, of course, when Saline became an issue. I had sat on the Planning Commission for a year and a half, and I was removed because I represented a city which our Delta County Planning Commission did not represent the city. They only represented townships. And so the board voted to take me off that. And it was very disheartening to me because I had worked on our planning commission to update our ordinances, to update our bylaws, to get the amendments to Public Act 233 squared away, and then came the data center requests. I received concerns from citizens about what was going on in Saline back in September of 2025. I brought it to our planning commission, and our planning commission was like, that'll never happen here. We're not going to worry about that. Let's just move on. We'll wait and see what other communities do, and then we'll just piggyback off. And I said, oh, hell to the no. No. So even though I was no longer on our planning commission, I still went to every single meeting. And I originally went to the other commissioner who was still on our planning commission. And I said, I want this on the agenda. Went to the following meeting, it wasn't on the agenda. So then I got up under public comment. I said I had made a request for data centers to be on our agenda. It wasn't on the agenda. I want to see it next month on the agenda. We need to start looking at ordinances and moratoriums because these things are coming whether we want them or not. And there's no way that we're going to protect our townships when they don't even have money to do their own zoning. Right. You know, so we need to protect each other. We need to take care of each other. So between November and then this past July, our planning commission worked on a moratorium. It went through legal. We talked to various communities who had already passed moratoriums. We were able to draft an ordinance, and we got it recommended to our full Board of Commissioners, and we as the Board of Commissioners unanimously passed a 12-month moratorium on any permitting for data centers or crypto mining. So that's going to give us 12 months to work on ordinances to protect our Delta County. And what I can say is this, if you never stop and you never settle, your ideas will come to fruition. People are more powerful than profits. And so please reach out to your townships, reach out to your counties, reach out to your cities, and demand that you have these moratoriums in place. They need to listen to you. And if they don't listen to you, you just talk louder because that's what I do. You never stop and you never settle. So thank you for having me here. And I'm more than willing to answer any questions that you may have.
So we're going to move now into the question and answer from everyone. Thank you to the panel for just giving that quick story. So now we have some time. There's been a number of questions that have come in, and thank you to the volunteer who is compiling all this information. Thank you so much. And so this is for everyone on the panel. We'll allow Wisconsin in this time, hey, and we're because there are definitely impacts from that Port Washington, that giant Port Washington. That transmission grid is our transmission grid, and what's happening on that Wisconsin transmission grid is going to happen to us. So, question number 1: for those who don't know, could someone explain exactly what a moratorium is?
So specific to Delta County, our 12-month moratorium means that no AI data centers, whether they're hyperscale or smaller scale, and Bitcoin operations are allowed to apply for special land use permits or any type of rezoning. So anything that comes forward where they try to apply for those type of permits, they will not be entertained for 12 months. That will give us time to create ordinances so that when they do apply for those permits, they have to follow the special guidelines that we set in place.
What happens after the 12 months? You do it again.
Then we do it again.
We got in ours that we have the ability to go another 12 months.
It is Michigan law that you cannot zone out a legal business. So there, but you, we talked about the big bond, remember? That is a legal business. You can't zone that out. So eventually we need to decide what the guardrails are going to be. That is up to us, right? We live here. So how are the developers finding land? Is it primarily private landowners? If yes, can we identify at-risk properties and prevent that development or find alternative development?
This Brian.
Does anyone else online speak about the private landowner owning the land that's being developed?
Is that for me?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I'm taking this one then.
I don't think they know, so yes.
I would just go for it. Go for it.
So it's my understanding that private landowners are the ones that get the final say. So it's the same with wind farms and solar and things like that. So it's sort of like that. That's I forget the name of it, but their PA 233 I think was addressing this issue. You may be familiar with that with the state and the renewable energies. So yeah, it's up to the individual landowner, and that's why it's important to have these ordinances in place so that if an individual landowner wants to do something, like it's still an ordinance. So that's what these ordinances moratoriums are about. So we can't exclude a legal business like Jen was saying. So
this may be more for Wisconsin, but I think it also applies to Michigan. A big thing going on right now is our farmers are struggling. And I got a lot of buddies, and when I say struggling, I mean they're struggling. It's tough to get the money. It's tough to pay for what they're doing. They're not getting fair prices. And at some point, we got to turn the support to the federal government to support our farmers, because the way that they are just grinding these people down so they feel like they have no other option than to sell, that's a much bigger problem. So this issue transcends to a bunch of other issues. It's just something to keep a focus on.
So there's several questions about water and water use. I don't know if there's an idea that there's a promise coming with better chips that would use less water. And that idea that, that there's better technology coming, and will the outcome of a moratorium mean that we might get a better data center? Has anyone had
I'll just say this, when it comes to the better chips and less water, you can use air cooling or whatever. Any less amount of water needs more energy. And every single energy plant that we have also consumes water. So when you look at it, you have to look at not just what the data center consumes, but what the energy plants are consuming. And also the technology is moving very fast, which makes the moratoriums make sense so we can see what the technology does. But when it comes to what the technology can do, a lot of times, since it's so new, it comes down to trust again. And we're trusting what big tech says. we're trusting these closed loop systems actually use less water. In Port Washington, for instance, they say they're only going to use 22,000 gallons or whatever, I believe it's a day. But if you read the contract, it's 1.2 million. So what the contract says is all that matters. Everything else is just PR. So I think what's in the contract is the most important. But yeah, technology is advancing. Brings up another point. Technology advances so quick. At what point do these massive buildings become those massive computers that were around in the 80s? At what point are these massive buildings the floppy disk? And then we got these huge buildings, you guys. What are we going to do with them? I recommend bowling alleys for everyone.
Are you starting up a shoe business next? Is that the?
You bet.
Oh, yes, fashionable shoes, he said. So I think the other question that we've gotten the most about is some of the urgency. Why is this happening so fast? And in addition to that, there was a couple questions about, well, what are we going to do for our development? You know, our taxes are rising, costs are going up. Do we need more development? So this urgency question, this speed question, but then how are communities going to come together and think about, well, what kind of development do we want to have? Any thoughts?
How about
When we were talking at length at the Board of Commissioners meeting regarding this moratorium and data centers, and it comes up at every general public comment regarding our budget, right? People are like, oh, well, we need more businesses to come into Delta County, and now you're telling us that we can't have the data centers, which would bring in all this money for us. What are we going to do? Well, what I would say is that we survived before data centers and we will survive after data centers. And I'm not willing to risk our Great Lakes, our water, our air to something that is a short term, right? When we look at the build of data centers, it's a short term financial gain for long term repercussions. We always have to weigh the pros and the cons, right? What happened to our old school manufacturing? Data centers are not the answer. Right? They are a quick fix for people to line their pockets. And then we look at what's going on with Selene, right? Oh, it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be amazing. The governor is going to, railroaded us to be able to build this center. Now they're asking for tax abatements. Are you kidding me? They're a multi-billion-dollar company and they want tax abatements. Oh, now they're going to say, oh, we're going to ask Eagle to be able to discharge our wastewater into the river. Oh, but don't worry, that water is going to be safe. Well, are we sure about that? We're already dealing with PFAS. Who's going to be there testing the water? How are we going to be able to figure this out? No way. It's so black and white. And so when you ask your local leaders and you ask your, local politicians, wink, wink, how they feel about it, and they don't have a hard stance on something, then something's going on, right? And so you got to stop that. These NDAs that are going on right now, are they not talking to you because they don't want to or because they can't? Right? And so, honestly, enough is enough with all of this stuff. So, you ask, what is the next step? Right? What is the next step after the 12 months? Well, then you pass another 12 months and you see how it goes. Or then you make requests out to your state leaders and you say, pass a statewide moratorium. Why are you leaving this on the townships where they maybe have 500 people? How are they going to combat, a multi-billion-dollar AI data? Sorry, I get fired up. Okay, there you go, John.
Oh, you're absolutely. I was just you mentioned about the building after it's no longer used and the size of it. That's one of the things that we did put in here also is the explanation plan and guaranteed monies to demo it if that's the case. And yes, it's surety bond, letter of credit, whatever. And I'm looking at 5 million, which seems to be a reasonable amount, being that I'm pretty familiar with what it costs to demo and to come into a landfill and everything like that. You start paying $100 a ton to go into a landfill. Well, you get a building size of this, you're talking a lot of tonnage. But just to make sure, so these companies are responsible to clean up the property when they're done.
Yes.
When they're done, I think that's very important. And the other thing you mentioned, contracts. My experience with reviewing contracts, is I always like to see what isn't said.
Yes. Just a couple points to add. Actually, a little pop quiz. Does anyone know the number of jobs in the state of Michigan that a data center needs to provide to be sales and use tax exempt?
45.
40.
0.
25.
0.
0.
For sure, 0.
Not 0. There is a number.
20.
I heard my mom shout out 25. She was close enough.
Really?
30 long-term jobs in order for a data center to be sales and use tax exempt in the state of Michigan. So I think that's something to also think about, and this is echoed already by some of my panelists, is these companies promise the world and they underdeliver. And when they underdeliver, the fines that they incur are pennies compared to the profit that they have. So I think that that's something to remember, is that they're going to say all the right things. They're going to sweeten you up. And in reality, they don't create a lot of jobs. A lot of the construction jobs are short term, and they bring in a lot of their own construction workers. So this is something that really doesn't have a lot of community benefit. And if it did, you wouldn't see these communities fighting back that have data centers in construction right now or in operation.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'll just throw in the construction is a huge issue in Port Washington. One thing on the construction side, if you go to any of the neighboring hotels and you look at the license plates, all bunch of fibs, okay? They are hiring construction crews from outside of the state of Wisconsin. And so they already are backtracking on that. And so that's a huge issue. The other thing is the living by an AI data center from a construction standpoint, it's hell. There are people in Iowa, buddies of mine in Iowa, his fellow Jay outside of Cedar Rapids, he can't get out of his driveway for 45 minutes because it is bumper to bumper construction truck going back and forth. 45 minutes to be in your driveway. And they are, preying on communities that don't have the legal support or whatever to actually get a good deal. Port Washington is paying back through a TID at 7% interest. So they are paying this company back at 7% interest. It's crazy. They're getting strong-armed. And what happens to a lot of these local officials is they tie their identity and their pride to this project. And once they do that, it's game over. They're basically on the side of the big tech and working for big tech. So, well, okay. Yeah, I kind of agree. But don't say that to their face, because that's a big thing. When you approach your local officials, approach them like you would, your neighbor or whatever, early until you realize that they're really dead set on that. And but approach them like your neighbor, your brother, whatever, because they are working against the best used car salesman in the world. And that's with big tech. And no shame to used car salesmen. You guys know what you're doing. But these guys are selling you a 92 Ford Pinto, okay? So, and yes, I know we're in Michigan, but that Pinto sucked. I'm just going to tell you.
I got, Brian's going to come back in for a comment.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. I just wanted to touch on something that Charlie briefly mentioned with regards to the farmers that are struggling, as well as Kelly mentioned with the water and the air quality. And it has to do with Wall Street versus Main Street. And a lot of these data centers are the result of AI investment from Wall Street. And so there's a huge wealth gap that's happening. I knock doors as a political candidate and people say, whoever gets my 401k up, that's who I'm voting for. And so there's a lot of people that are saying, yeah, AI and data centers are so critical and crypto to our retirement funds and to our Wall Street portfolios. But people on Main Street are really, really struggling. And in rural Wisconsin and Michigan, farmers are really struggling. And this is also what happened with solar farms and they're just trying to hold on to their family land and just keep farming it somehow, but they're losing so much money. So that's why this is such a bipartisan issue, because this is just about humanity, and we're representing not just farmers that are struggling, but our natural environment, our water and our air that doesn't get to vote. And so someone has to stand up for the people that aren't represented. And that's why we're here. And I think that's one of the ethical problems with data centers. And that's what I think is so important to remember as well. Thank you.
Well, we're only gonna take questions on the chat because we have to respect all the folks that who are participating. These are also questions that are coming from folks online who aren't at our locations, and but we're gonna hold so if you could please. What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. So you can, thank you.
I submitted one on there.
Yeah, use the QR code to answer the questions. So there's actually there's about 25 of them. So the question was asked, is it going through a data center? I'm gonna let Lucy answer that question.
You were not paying attention. Oh, wait, I can review, sure. So yeah, obviously we talked about traditional data centers and their differences between hyperscale data centers. We're talking for the focus of today's event on these AI hyperscale data centers, which their purpose is for this training and inference of the AI models. We're not talking about data storage. We're talking about the ways in which language learning models are using vast amount of power and resources in order to basically power them and the community impact those infrastructures have within local communities. So to answer your question, we are not using an AI data center for our QR code in our survey. I hope that helped to clear it up.
And speaking of that, here's a question. How can local government officials and planners more efficiently advocate for local policy to address data center misinformation?
Oh. Okay. So what we do at the Delta County level is we bring in people that are not us. Right. So we have two great resources that we used that were outside resources to help develop our moratorium, and then that are going to be working with our ordinance development. That's Michigan State University Extension. They have wonderful nonpartisan information that we can use to help develop these moratoriums. And then we also have QPAD, which is our separate. Well, I love QPAD. Yes. You know, which we use for a lot of things at Delta County, and we've had a very trusted relationship with QPAD. For those of you who don't know what QPAD stands for, it stands for the Upper Peninsula Planning and Development Regional Commission. And so I always figure that if people are losing trust in their local leaders, when you bring in outside sources to kind of, you know, help educate and inform your citizens, the more power you have. So that would be my solution.
Yeah, I also use the Michigan Township Association, and I contacted associations out of the state of Michigan. I've got a whole briefcase full of documentation on centers, and it's been very helpful.
All right, this will be our last question, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Calvin Carter, Fearless Leader, to talk about some next steps. Could someone speak about how to make an effective public comment? One that speaks to the county and township rather than a big rant that gets clicks on Instagram. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right?
There are a lot of really wonderful resources out there. One of them that I'd like to highlight is Alliance for the Great Lakes. They have a data center playbook. At the end of that playbook, they have questions to ask for public comment, questions to ask at town hall meetings, city council meetings. They've already gone ahead and anticipated the things that you might be curious about, and they provided very simplistic, to the point questions that are free of that ambiguity, ranting, things like that. That's a really great resource. I know that there are several other organizations that have materials like that as well. But also, I'm going to turn it over to the officials to talk about. Yeah, the Alliance for the Great Lakes. Helena Bolzer, who's an amazing human. She's a water source policy analyst. She wrote it, and you can download it as a PDF. It's hundreds of pages long, and towards the end are some of those community resource materials where she has questions. She's got a quick fact sheet about water, energy, things to think about in terms of if this is going to be a benefit to your community or not. Different pros and cons to weigh, and different case studies of current data centers and their construction and operation, and things to think about as it pertains to scientific research and data.
Yay. All right. Well, thank you. And there's also preview of coming steps. We're going to have a local meeting here for a Central UP and MARD hub, just joining the hubs that are already operating in the Eastern UP and the Western UP. So we're now going to turn it over to Calvin back on the screen, coming to us from the Sioux.
Hey, I want to say thank you all for sticking with us to the end. I know running these hybrid events can be tricky, and we were bold enough to try to do 4 at once. So appreciate you fighting the tech gremlins with all of us. My big takeaway here is that, yeah, we treat our township and city officials like our neighbors, because that's what they are. They're also caring about our communities. They're trying to do their best, and they need us to help support them in that work. We're finding a lot of success when we come to these places in good faith and offer them information and help and ideas. So let's keep working on that together. Stay tuned. We're going to send follow-up emails with helpful links to all the partner organizations that joined us today, and any other helpful information that came up with this. I want to say thank you to our speakers. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, all you township officials out there. Thank you, Lucy, and everyone, for all your work putting this thing together. It was very informative, and I learned a lot, even though I've been in this fight for, I don't know, over a year now. So, all right, guys, appreciate you. Have a safe trip home. Watch for deer, I guess, all those happy things. Yeah, all right. Good night.